Again, kindly confirm that you're able to see my slides.
Yes, wonderfully made, Dr.
Excellent. Okay, so my name is Dr. Bevin Lihanda, and currently I do pharmaceutical supply chain consultancy at Pharmacies. In this session, I'm going to take you through the current pharmaceutical supply chain trends. But before that, I would just request you to indulge me, because there are some numbers I'd like to share with you that I came across about Africa's pharmaceutical supply chain. So, as Africa, we import about 94% of our pharmaceutical needs from outside the continent at an annual cost of 16 billion US dollars. We, as Africa, import 99% of our vaccine needs. Africa only produces 0.1% of global vaccines. Yet, we have only 25% of global vaccine demand. Of the 1% that is produced domestically in Africa, that's around 12 million doses of vaccines, mostly are relegated to the final fill and finish steps. This one, I think Professor, was it Jonathan, had mentioned it. 83% of Africans are yet to receive a single dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. We lose 45% of our expected revenue due to inefficiencies in our pharmaceutical supply chains. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these numbers gives us points of reflection and assessment. In comparison to what we call mature pharmaceutical supply chains, or what we call the best-in-class supply chains, what is it that we are doing that we shouldn't be doing? What is it that we are doing that we should do more efficiently? What is it that we are not doing that we should immediately start doing? Hopefully that sets the tone for this presentation, which is all about current pharmaceutical supply chain trends. So I'll touch a little bit in general about the pharmaceutical supply chain and the trends therein. So the pharmaceutical industry, just like any industry, operates in what we call a dynamic business environment. What does this mean? This means that it's exposed to certain factors that keep changing by the day, by the month, by the year. Political factors, economic factors, social cultural factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors affect not only Kenya, but across the world. As an example, in Kenya, we are in what we call a political year. It's inevitable there'll be a change of guard. Now, if you're a pharmaceutical player, it would be naive of you to think that these changes will have no effect on your organization and in your pharmaceutical supply chain. It is imperative for us to not only understand these changes which are in the macro environment, but also adapt our internal capacities to be able to deal with these changes. The onus on us is to do that, because the players that do not adapt will inevitably become obsolete. So what are these pharmaceutical supply chain? So I'm happy I'm doing this presentation now because there are several speakers who have come before me today and even yesterday, who have touched on most of these aspects. So the first trend is that companies are making it an effort to build resilience. Two, end-to-end visibility is becoming the norm. Three, as you have seen from our presentation from Dr. Lisbeth, the rise of e-commerce and online pharmacy is becoming a mainstay. Four, data. Now, data is something that has been discussed by the CEO, by most of the presenters here, how to handle the data and how to use advanced analytics. So this is something that we as pharmaceutical players also have to jump on. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is also another aspect, and as well, pharmaceutical supply chain agility. So what do we mean when we talk about pharmaceutical supply chain resilience? In simple terms, it's just the ability to return to normal operations after experiencing a disruption. A disruption that has led to drop in operational efficiencies. Now, several speakers have touched on the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic as a disruption. And I know all of us are able to see the invasion in Ukraine by Russia. A story that for me was quite interesting was the story of the Suez Canal blockage. Now, this is something that happened approximately a year ago to the day, whereby the Suez Canal, which is basically an artificial waterway that connects the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea, essentially dividing Africa and Asia. And as well, it's part of the Silk Road that connects Europe to Asia. Now, this canal is important because 12% of global trade traverses through that channel. Now, what happened in the Suez Canal blockage is that a 400-meter long ship container, buffeted by winds, blocked this canal. Now, this ship had approximately 20,000 containers that had goods for several companies. But that was not the main disruption. The main disruption was that a total of 369 ships were blocked for 6 days and 7 hours. Now, as I mentioned before, 12% of global trade traverses through this channel. What happened? This blockage prevented approximately $9.6 billion worth of trade. If you're a company that uses this channel, you will have experienced massive losses in business during this time. So after this disruption, what do you do to get back to normal operations? Hence, resilience. Pharmaceutical supply chain resilience by pharmaceutical companies and players can be improved by what we call continuous risk monitoring. Once you identify a risk towards the supply chain, you put in place controls that will ensure that it will not adversely affect your way of operations. Now, the best-in-class companies, what they're doing is, in their strategic planning, or even their business planning, they're now incorporating a section for resilience. So what are they including in this section? Now, they're increasing the number of response options. And here I'm talking about logistical support options. How many suppliers do you have? How many options of suppliers do you have? You are subcontracting to a third-party logistic provider for your warehousing or your transport needs. Are you putting all your proverbial eggs with one logistic provider? What will happen when this disruption happens? Because it's inevitable. There'll be another blockade. There'll be another pandemic. I'm not hoping that it will, but we can't be naive. These are things that may happen. How are you preparing yourself as a company, or how are you preparing your pharmaceutical supply chains to be able to recover once this happens? The second point is the rise of e-commerce and online pharmacies. And I know most of us are aware that the Pharmacy and Poisons Board have been developing guidelines for internet pharmacy services. Now, this should be the telltale sign that this part of the industry is becoming what we call attractive to investors. It is approximated that the online pharmacy market in the next 5 years will be worth $182.2 billion. Now, patients are becoming tech savvy. Gone are the days where if you have children, you buy for them banos, or they play with forks and spoons and all that. Children from as low as 4 years old are owning smartphones, and they're growing up in the technological age. And they'll be able to, of course, once they reach the right age, they'll be able to order these medicines and able to transact not only with the pharmaceutical supply chain, but all other supply chains. Now, you may ask yourself, what does it take for me to go into online pharmacy and e-commerce? Now, sustained success will be the people who are able to rightfully balance both inventory storage costs vis-a-vis the distribution costs. If you are able to source medicines from higher up the supply chain, and you're able to get economies of scale, and you're able to get affordable pricing or affordable costs, when it comes to getting the medicine to that patient, what is that extra cost that that patient has to pay? It is something that we have to consider when we're coming up with our online pharmacy strategies. The people who will be successful in this industry are the ones who are able to execute what we call a perfect order. A perfect order is all about the 7 R's. The right product, in this case, the right medicine, in the right quantity, in the right condition, at the right place, at the right time, to the right customer, and at the right cost. So, ladies and gentlemen, online pharmacies will become a mainstay, and it is on us to adapt our internal capacities to be able to take advantage of this. Complete visibility of the pharmaceutical supply chains. This is something else that the best in class are putting in place. And in simple terms, end-to-end visibility is just the ability to view important data and information across your organization and even outside your organization. This is with your supply chain partners. Now, in internal visibility, there are systems such as ERP system, enterprise resource planning systems, whereby there are huge databases and huge master files about various aspects of the organization. As a sales and marketing team, you are able to see what is in stock in our warehouse. So if you are planning our promotional activities, we are aware, once the demand kicks on, we have enough supplies to meet the demand. When it comes to partnering with other supply chain partners in terms of visibility, It's needless to say that this requires a lot of trust. Because some of us will ask ourselves, okay, visibility seems to be something really great. But am I ready to share my data and information with the wholesaler, with the manufacturer, or even the second-tier suppliers? So building trust with your supply chain partners is the first thing. Now, the companies that have been able to succeed in terms of visibility have shown aspects such as the manufacturer is able to access the point of sale of a retailer. In this aspect, once a retailer sells a product or sells a certain threshold of product, the manufacturer is able to see and kickstart the production process. Now, it is impossible to be absolutely accurate with demand forecasting. But ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me, through visibility, the chances of errors in demand forecasting is substantially reduced. Another aspect is, I get it from a study that I saw that was conducted in the USA. It was in Chicago, whereby patients were being surveyed on how they view their medicines, the quality of their medicines, and the possibility of treatment through use of this medicine. And I found it astonishing that 40% of those patients said that they do not know where these drugs come from, who their manufacturers are, or whatever the label is claiming, are they truly the manufacturers? And they believe that these medicines may not only harm them, but would kill them. Now, this is a patient's perception of the pharmaceutical supply chain. So tracking and traceability is what the mature pharmaceutical supply chains are doing. A patient, after getting their medicine, is able to see where the medicines are sourced. Again, from the MyDAO presentation, you see they're giving an option for patients to be able to see where those products are coming from. This is a type of visibility. Automation, data, and advanced analytics. Another aspect that is expected to be the mainstay of pharmaceutical supply chains. Automation is all about increasing efficiency and decreasing errors. For example, you own a warehouse or you own a store. How would you be able to automate this process? The best in class are investing in automated guided vehicles, automated sorting systems, automated storage and retrieval systems. Now, when you're able to implement these aspects, you can have your human staff focusing on other aspects that may be key in terms of your pharmaceutical supply chain. When it comes to advanced analytics, there are aspects of predictability and perspective analytics. Now, companies are incorporating what we call the decision support systems, whereby you input certain parameters. Let's say you want to forecast your demand. You use this decision support system by inputting certain parameters. historical data on demand, expected promotional activities, and any other aspect that touches on your demand. The system is able to analyze that and give you an output towards the kind of demand you're expected to see. Data is something that most of our presenters have talked about, and in particular, big data. Now, data does not stop at its collection. So what? You have a system that is able to collect all this data. You should be able to analyze this data, transform it into information, and use this information to make decisions. That is what mature pharmaceutical supply chains are doing. Artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, this is another area that is expected to grow in the next few years, particularly the collaboration between humans and robots. And artificial intelligence are just computer programs that have the inherent ability to learn and reason in a manner similar to humans. Now, this is different from what you would call the conventional programs that just collect and process data by algorithms or fixed step-by-step procedures. Now, right now, artificial intelligence is being used in drug discovery, conducting clinical trials, randomization, selection of participants. Artificial intelligence is doing that. It's also being used in manufacturing, and it's expected as well to be used in medication therapy management. AI and machine learning is expected to improve overall operational efficiencies of our supply chains. The final trend that we expect to see is agility. Now, in simple terms, agility is just the ability to be flexible, the ability to quickly adapt in a way that is responsive to changing competitive environment. So the customer needs have changed. How quickly are you able to adapt to that? Now, in terms of manufacturing, for the manufacturing players who are here, there's what we call upside agility, which is just the ability to adapt your internal capacity when you have an increase in load requirement or increase in potential demand. Downward agility is the ability to reduce your capacity in the face of reduction of the load required. There are aspects such as mix flexibility, and this is basically the range of products that you keep. Customer needs or patient needs have changed. Are you going to stock the same categories of medicines that you've been stocking, hoping that for one reason or another, they'll still be consumed, despite the changes in these needs? Volume flexibility, which is all about capacity. If I get an increase in demand, how fast am I able to increase my capacity? May I be a wholesaler or a manufacturer? How flexible am I with volume? We should also have delivery flexibility. This is whereby you have more than one logistic provider. So in the sense that the Suez Canal blocks again today, and your products were meant to come through through the sea. How quickly can you adapt these aspects to ensure that you still get your supplies? Legislative flexibility, policies, laws, and guidelines always change in progressive societies anyway. So how quickly are you able to adapt with changes in law and in law and policies? So you have to adapt to the customer needs. And when it comes to uncertainty in demand, when this aspect is high, flexibility becomes even more important. So some of us may be asking, so how do I become agile? Now, best in class at forming collaborations and strategic partnerships with logistic providers, and they're able to establish emergency standing contracts with suppliers. Now, you have your class A suppliers, who are your main suppliers, but you create emergency standing orders with other suppliers who can be able to bridge this gap in a scenario that demand changes. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the main trends that are taking place in the pharmaceutical supply chains. And we have to align our own capabilities with this changing business environment. The companies that actually adapt themselves or align themselves with these new trends will not only survive in the industry, but they will be successful. Now, people mostly compete through cost efficiency. Now, I have to tell you that cost efficiency will no longer be the only aspect or the aspect that only makes the cut. The pharmaceutical supply chains that are cost efficient and are able to incorporate these trends are the ones that will command the biggest market share. As a parting shot, Bill Clinton said that the price of doing the same old thing is far higher than the price of change. Let us not be caught flat-footed reacting to change. Let's identify the potential changes and start incorporating them today. Okay, thank you so much for listening, and I'll throw it back to Dr. Mbao.